Honestly unbalanced.
You were about to tell me about what Celtic yoga is, because I've never really heard of it before, and I know your dad is not the founder of Celtic yoga per se, or maybe he is, but the founder of this Celtic yoga school, and you and your sister both trained in that when you were little ones. So tell me about what on earth that is.
Yeah, so dad is Jack Harrison, right? And he has he started yoga in San Francisco in the 70s.
Oh.
And then when he came back, he was doing a folklore master's. He was involved in heritage. He's a heritage design and interpretive designer for museums and stuff. And I suppose researching mythology, folklore, and history, he started to notice the connections between Celtic mythology and Celtic stories and Indian mythology and Indian wisdom that was passed down generation to generation. And I suppose the idea is that everyone started off in, the Middle Europe with the Indo-European expansion moved people outwards, right? And then they go to through the UK, through Ireland, and then out to the fringes of society into the west coast of Ireland, and these fringes. And the same is happening the other direction. We're going to India all the way over, and you get at the edges of society in these societies that are still nature based, that are still connected with nature, because nature is so important for these societies who are farming based and who are pay attention to the seasons and the stars, and it makes such a difference to their livelihoods, these seasons, and their nature based societies. You often find that the wisdom is passed down, the stories are passed down, and they're kept in these, like, we have islands off the west coast of Ireland, and there's old men there that can tell stories, Shanakees we call them in Ireland, and they're people who can, and all around really in Ireland, but like you find them in these places. And it's the same in India. The mythology is reflected, and they're basically the same stories, they're the same principles. They're worshipping Mother Nature itself, and the gods of the cycles of nature, because it meant so much to them, obviously. And in Ireland, we have different celebrations, like we have fire festivals, at the kind of cross quarter festivals. In the springtime, there's Imbolc, which is the springtime festival, the time of fertility, and we celebrate our goddess Bridget then. And there's parallels with the goddesses in the yogic tradition as well here. We have, like, through the year in Ireland, Bealtaine is the festival of abundance, and it's in May, so it's that time of like growth and everything's in bloom and blossom, and it's also this time of kind of gratitude and all of this at that time, or more so actually abundance, reflection on abundance. And then we move into Lunasa, which is the festival in August, which is the harvest festival, reflecting on the year. And like, sorry, and just to finish it off, then you have Samhain, which is in kind of November. It's like Halloween time, but in Ireland, that Halloween is kind of an overlay from later times. But originally, these like pagan Celtic festivals celebrated that time of Samhain, when they're going into the dark half of the year. So they're kind of celebrating the everything, and they've harvested everything, and then they're celebrating. It's the Celtic New Year in November, and they move into the dark part of the year. And obviously everything's dark, you can't grow things as much, and then you kind of have to celebrate by trusting that the cycle will continue again, and you'll move back into springtime. And I suppose the cyclical wisdom, the stories, and in Ireland, people are really starting to reconnect with that. But in yoga, there's the spiritual connection between those nature-based societies, and all of the mythology and the stories would kind of reflect and be similar, and the gods and goddesses that we kind of look to are quite similar in that way. And so I suppose it's using the Celtic. Dad wrote a book on it. It's the Celtic School of Yoga and Ashling for the 21st century. Ashling means dream. And the idea is kind of using the practices that the wisdom keepers in India have kept. All of the practices of asana and meditation, and the yamas and the niyamas that have been so carefully kept, and actually in Ireland haven't been, because we've been colonized. And so it's lovely to kind of see people reconnecting with, and in Ireland there's a lot of focus now on the Irish language and Irish history, and we're kind of reclaiming our own traditions as something that we really revere. And in India they have the wisdom that's kept down, and it's kind of lovely to see the mirroring each other and working in as we're practicing yoga with the practices of India, and kind of honoring the wisdom keepers in all of these systems, and obviously there's people in, wisdom keepers all over, in the Aboriginal populations all over, and that have wisdom, the Native American people, and it's about respecting and honoring this wisdom, and kind of bringing it into our practices. And then when we bring it into our practice, we can actually improve our lives by, slowing down and noticing the cycles of nature, noticing the buds on the trees opening, the lambs in the fields, noticing in May the abundance that we feel, and moving into this masculine solar energy of, and actually speaking of like the energy at that time in Imbolc with spring, and then moving into May, that's real Shakti creativity energy. And then moving into, the big solar in the solstice, the solar part of the year. It's just lovely to kind of recognize those things. And I think even in COVID, I found noticing like we all slowed down. And then now we've kind of all sped up again. And it's about reminding ourselves and remembering to come back to the nature, to the cycles, and to those practices. And the yoga reminds us of that, it really strongly. But weaving
Nice.
in the nature-based wisdom is something, I guess, that's important in the Celtic school of yoga.
So to compare, I guess, the two lineages, are there any almost like direct like for likes in terms of kind of stories of deities and alike, and then folklore stories? Are there stories that almost borderline seem identical? Because that's going to be my one question for you in a
Yeah, well,
moment.
you'd
Like,
be better off to ask my dad these
okay.
questions. He's got the deep wisdom on all these stories. And I suppose, he's found links with, there's photos in the books with like, old, like Celtic vases, and like what do you call them, like just things that they would have found in archaeology, like artifacts that would have emblems that are quite similar, like, even the symbol, and like symbols that are similar, or, people sitting in a meditative position and stuff like that. And then, gods, like, or, goddesses, like I said, like Shakti and Bridget, like the goddess of fertility. Shakti is the goddess of creativity. And so
Now,
there's those.
sorry, I should know some of this. My nan was Irish, and she'd actually started to teach me some of the language back in the day when I was younger.
Brilliant.
I think I
Yeah.
still know like shut the door and open the door. So like us and do this and door and do this. That's about it.
Yeah, very
That's
good.
all.
Doing under.
That's all I remember. I can get people to open the door for me, but I'm so interested kind of in these stories, and I don't know what texts there are that are available like in terms of ancient texts. So we talk about obviously the Yoga Sutras, texts that kind of embody some of the wisdom, not texts that we can learn from. Did anything like that exist in terms of a philosophical slash spiritual component outside of folklore? Are there any like ancient texts, as it were?
So I suppose in India, those stories, they were just stories, and the mythology and stuff is there because it's passed down from person to person over time. And then when they were able to commit it to writing, they did that, and Patanjali did that in the sutras, and there's the Vedas and everything. So those things have been committed to writing. And in Ireland, there like this the spiritual textbooks that we have are kind of later, and they are kind of Christian,
Mm,
the in terms of books, and passages like that. In Ireland, it's more the artifacts, the things in the caves that you would find, and the stone structures, the Sheila na gig, the kind of goddess above the door. Is Sheila na gig is kind of a, kind of a statue or an engraving, a stone engraving, a lot of engravings you'd find, and kind of spirals, and kind of things like that map out the skies, that, like stone sculptures, I suppose, that map out the skies and the stars. Um, in Ireland, yeah, it was, colonized, like Christianity came in and replaced the pagan religion. Um, and then obviously the UK came in and did the same thing. And basically we have, our actual culture um, has been lost in some ways. And there's people that are trying to, and it has been sustained in some ways by the efforts of amazing people. But a lot of the wisdom will be passed down in these stories. And like people, like I was saying, like the storytellers, the Shanakees that will tell these stories, and the mythology, and like kind of things like I was mentioning the Aran Islands. There's a fort on top of the Aran Islands that's just on the edge of a cliff, and there's a the late Manchon McGann, who was a really good proponent of Irish culture. He in one of his references, he kind of referred to this fort as a cathedral. And in fact, I don't even know if that could have been Dad either. I'm getting mixed up, but my dad worked on that a lot with the heritage, and like the idea that people come and revere those places. In Ireland, I suppose it's the mythology, it's the stories, it's the places, it's the language. The language is so rich. Um, but yeah, unfortunately, we haven't had the wisdom keepers keeping those philosophical texts all the way down, and it's trying to just piece that together now, I suppose, and with reverence to
Mm.
what was important to them. And people are coming back. There's a festival here nearby where I live, which is called a place called the Hill of Ishnock. And these Celtic festivals are celebrated there, and myself and my sister run them at these different cross quarter events. And then there's the actual the people who own the hill themselves. They have a huge one at Baltana, and it's a big fire festival. 5,000 people come, and it's just a big celebration.
Now,
So it's really kind of coming back. People are coming back to it.
so on that note, so I've met, like, including at your festival, like lots of younger people who are like well into it and trying to bring it back. And I think one person was teaching yoga in Irish,
Yes, she is.
which is
Yeah, she's, and there was
amazing.
two people were teaching yoga in Irish, which was just incredible, and we're just so privileged to have had that on the schedule. Yeah.
And so, how big a movement is this? Like, obviously, I'm seeing it kind of on a surface level, but how ingrained is it in kind of like the
Well,
modern younger people's culture in Ireland, full stop, not just in maybe the wellness
well,
community?
yeah, I mean, since there's a Gaelic revival back in the 1900s, and there's been a lot of effort, and we've been learning Irish in schools and stuff like that. But currently, it's actually become quite fashionable, and it's
Mm,
it's very on trend in Ireland to kind of go back, and people are going back to the Gaeltacht, which means it's Irish speaking area, to learn Irish. As you said, there's people teaching yoga in Irish. We're bringing words back. And bringing the language back. It's very fashionable now, but there has always been people who've spoken Irish. There's in the Gaeltacht areas, there's people whose first language is Irish, and that's always been the way. But again, it's at these fringes of society, and that's where those traditions and those things are kept, and we have to tap into those things, because otherwise everyone's just kind of becoming this mainstream,
yeah.
um, you know, yeah.
And before we talk a little bit about the festival, just to stay on this topic for just a little bit more, I'm intrigued to understand, and maybe I'll experience it at the festival, like what Celtic yoga looks like tangibly in class format. Like, would it look like a yoga asana class, a normal one, without sound? But the moment you put sound on, are the stories and the underlying narrative related to Celtic folklore? What's it tangibly? Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess one thing is the very there it looks if it, I suppose, I guess, what is yoga? Yoga is asana, meditation, self-reflection, any of that. It looks, in terms of practices, we use the practices of yoga and honor the practices of yoga, and also the philosophies of yoga, of course. Um, you know, those philosophies are coming in, um, but they're just weaved into that is the importance of the seasonal cycle, the honoring of the wherever we are in terms of nature, and then in terms of bringing elements in around the goddess Bridget, and her like creativity and alchemy and fertility and kind of yeah, just creation, if that's something, or like heart opening, classes can be connected to different gods and goddesses as well, you know. And so you're kind of just look, the Celtic yoga isn't an asana practice. It isn't a meditation practice. It's not a prescribed form. Um, we get that from the yoga, and that's why I guess we call it yoga, because we call it Celtic yoga, because the yoga is coming from India. The Celtic bit is being weaved through in a way that we can honor our own ancestors here in this country, and honor that at the same time as using the practices and blending them together, and because they're so similar in terms of intention, that's, I guess, where it comes from. So how it looks might be the same. You know, if you didn't hear anything that I was speaking about, you might do an asana class and sit down and have a meditation and do some breath work. But I think, yeah, it's just we're weaving it in.
And I imagine you haven't had much, because I think when people modify perhaps what yoga is or add their own things, sometimes there can be blowback. But I imagine you haven't had much of that, because it is so. There are so many similarities, and also, I guess you are a colonized community, and you're using the
Yes.
practices of another colonized community, and you're kind of in it together, as it were.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's not been any kind of negative, that hasn't been negatively received in any sense.
No, not at all. And I think it's how you do it. I think it's not taking it, it's actually elevating it, and like elevating the yoga, and just making it more relevant by weaving in other things that are quite similar. You know, when we talk about the goddess Shakti and talk about the goddess Bridget, like we're both of them are equally living and breathing within that class, you know. And it's trying to honor and elevate the wisdom that has been passed down, at the same time as kind of weaving in what we know and what's happening in our seasons and our, you know, and our stories, um on this land. um so yeah, I think it's how you do that. It's with reverence, I guess.
And tell me about how this informed the creation of the festival. So, just for listeners, you co-founded with your sister and friend the Yoga Picnic Festival.
Yeah.
Started off 120 people. It's a one-day festival, but now it's, you've got teachers from all over the world. I've been lucky enough to teach it twice and have an amazing time with my family coming along as well. It's been awesome, and it does feel very Irish. Like, I've been to lots of festivals in many countries, and often, not all the time, they just feel like the same thing. Obviously,
Okay.
their language is different. It would, depending on well, sometimes the language can be different, but they feel just very well produced, good festivals slash conferences. But this one does feel very much of the place it is. In a sense, it feels much very of Ireland,
Mm.
compared to perhaps other festivals that happen in the country that might just feel like it could be, you could easily be in a park in London,
Yeah.
and it'd be the same thing. So, how important was it for you to make it connect to where you are? And then why, I guess, did you decide to then bring international teachers in, even ones
Yeah.
that are technically Irish?
You kind Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, so I suppose the background is myself and Katie are sisters, and Mary is my friend, our friend now from Kilbeggan, where I live in Westmeath. Now, we're all from very different backgrounds. Me and I'm a lawyer. My sister's a primary school teacher, and Mary was a PE teacher. Now owns a yoga studio. And basically, when I moved to here, my husband has an organic farm here. We moved about 10 years ago, and I met Mary through yoga. And basically, we decided that we'll just put this small yoga picnic on. It's going to be a really small event, just a couple of classes. People can bring their own food, and that's it. Um, well, people started to get interested in it, and then we kind of thought, oh, well, it's the Irish weather, so we need a bit of a tent. And look, if we have a tent, then we need to pay for that, so we need to charge people a little bit. And then we were like, okay, well, then we need to get insurance if we have a tent, and if we charge people and we have insurance, and then we need wristbands, and then we might need security, and then so it just kind of
Mhm.
developed. But yeah, as you say, it was 120 people at the outset. And I suppose the idea of it was to kind of create this place. I just moved to the area. I was trying to meet people, and kind of create something about connection, really, and belonging in the area, like to have people come together. Mary knew, had a connection to the location. She used to work there as a teenager in kind of an adventure center. But basically, the location that we have is a special area of conservation. And this might be the feeling that you get that's different from other festivals, is that it's right on a beautiful lake, Lough Kennel. It's kind of an elevated site looking over the lake. And there's all these old trees and a little bit of a forest where we do forest bathing and stuff. And all the little sections are kind of these beautiful, quiet, calm little spaces. Um, and we just created this, it kind of just grew from there. And I suppose the idea was we wanted people to come and have this real life connection. Like everything had moved online. We just wanted people to come back to feel better by being together in nature, by practicing together in whatever form that was, be it, beginners, advanced, just meditation, not do any asana at all, whatever way somebody wanted to have their day. We wanted it just them, I suppose, to feel better, both physically and mentally, because as you know, like a lot of yoga is about, mental health promotion and guidelines for our life and living our life and how it is. Um, and it can make us better. And I suppose that's really important to us. And that was where we came from. But then the next year, more and more people wanted to come. We added to it, like, I think 800 people in the next year, 1,500 in the next year. And then this year, we're in our fifth birthday, and we're going to hopefully have 2,500 people there. So I guess it's really exciting to see how that grew. And yeah, it's really important, the feeling of it being really authentic and being really Irish. I guess that's just in itself. Maybe because we are an independent festival, we are a grassroots festival. It's the three of us running it alongside families, other jobs. It is hard, but we work really hard, I suppose, to keep it independent. We don't have a big investor that we have to then. Obviously, that would be great in terms of money for marketing and everything, but we don't want to do that because it would maybe take us away from our heart, from the heart of the festival, from why we started it. We don't want to have to change things. Like we have a sustainability policy, and we have, for instance, like some really exciting things like Kia is one of our sponsors, and they power all of our tents with their electric vehicles. So it means that everything's off grid. We don't have any plastic on this site. They're just really conscious around sustainability. And I suppose if it wasn't an independent grassroots festival, if it had investors or it was owned by a big festival company, we might have to answer and kind of have to make, they would be looking for a return, I suppose, on their investment. And so at the moment, although it is hard, it is hard to do it alongside everything. We're doing it to keep its heart and to keep, I suppose, true to the principles of yoga as well.
Can I ask what is the why behind it? So I guess when you started off, it was just a little thing to connect people together, post COVID. So what is the why now? Whether you can think of that as a mission statement, or what motivates you, or what does it stand for? Like, how would you describe it?
I guess, well, we have a little tagline, which is earthwise, authentic, and connected. So um, basically, the community of yogis come again and again. The people come back. They obviously experience really good teaching, a really good atmosphere, and they come back time and time again. So it is, and it's important to us, again, like the principle of satya, the authenticity, to actually just be there. Like it's not performative. It's just an actual festival that you can go along. It's family friendly. You can go and just really enjoy the day. You can, do a cacao ceremony and not do anything else for the rest of the day. You can, lay by looking over the lake and have a lovely, I think there's a video of you doing that, actually just sitting back and chewing a piece of grass. And, you can do that, or you can do, come and do handstands and arm balances and everything. And I suppose it's just the authenticity of it is important, and that's and to connect people into that. And the why is, it's about bringing people together, but it's also about the ripple effect of yoga. Like all of us in the yoga world, I imagine, have felt the positive effects of yoga. The physical effects people usually start with, that's the entry, and then people start feeling the mental effects of the breath work and the meditation. And then perhaps they might go and look more into the philosophical principles, the yamas and the niyamas, and they might start to use those in their parenting and in their relationships. And that's certainly what happened to me, is that it had this really positive effect. And even, you have a bad day, you remind yourself of that. It's always about coming back to it. It's a practice. And so those positive effects, and Mary and Katie would feel the same about that, is that they've had a really positive impact on their lives with yoga. And so the ripple effect of that is something that we wanted people to feel, and that we still want people to feel. We want more and more people to feel this. Um, and to feel it in a way that's like in person, in nature, come together, learn a little bit. Let's do it in a way that's really authentic, that's not performative. Let's do it in a way that brings, community together, teachers together. Like people say, the teachers coming are like, it's like our yearly meetup for everyone, because like teaching yoga is very independent and can be lonely, I imagine, if you're running your own business like that, for other people. And then let's do it in a way that's earthwise as well, that like aligns with yoga principles of, ahimsa and everything, that we're caring towards the earth, and we're so it's kind of like a fun day, but it's an education piece as well. And the idea is that there's a ripple effect from the education, and from the yoga that we can share, and that hopefully somebody, who isn't already a yoga teacher, isn't completely convinced by it, might go away and have a positive impact on their life, even if it's just that they're breathing a little bit lighter, that day, or for the following week or few weeks, or.
Have you had any nice testimonials from anyone that are reading more of your
Yeah.
web, like any people that have met their partner, their love of their life at the festival?
We don't know yet now about love of the life, so
No,
we'll
no
see. We're five
babies, no.
years in, so maybe this year. But no, we've gotten loads of really good feedback. There's Google reviews are all 5 star. There's so many gorgeous things that people have said, that it's like this beating heart, that the vibration has just raised everyone up. But that, we finished the day with a beautiful kirtan, which is led by my dad, Jack, and he with a band and beautiful singers, and everyone's singing and chanting together, and to kind of normalize those practices as well for people who haven't done them before is really important. And then we end with kind of a healing circle, and there's this idea that people kind of go away floating, and there's lots of feedback like that, that
Nice.
people, yeah.
What time is it kirtan? Can I do it with the kids? What time is it?
Yeah,
What
it's on at
time?
6 o'clock.
Oh no, we can do it because we're not staying
Yes.
that far away.
No,
I
it's
think
beautiful.
this time, I
Oh,
think, yeah, they're old enough that they can actually stay up till that late. Now,
yeah.
you are a lawyer, as you said. Now,
Yes.
I'm intrigued to know how much how much you get in your own way with this. Now, let me explain what I mean by that. In that you are more organized than any festival organizer I've ever met. Like your
Thank
insurance
you.
requirements, like in terms of what you want from like me and like my insurers, no one's ever asked that in like me teaching internationally for like 15 years. Like
Yeah.
you are on it in that sense. And the reason I say get in your own way, and I think it's like me, that I like to do things properly. So for instance, I've boxed and trained and all that stuff for 20 years, but I wouldn't ever do like one-to-one weightlifting with anyone, even though I'm in theory really qualified to do it, because I don't have the formal qualification, I don't have the insurance, and I wouldn't do like in the same way as I wouldn't pick up a kettlebell on my online yoga platform, even though again I've used kettlebells forever, because I'm not insured and formally qualified to do that. And actually, I'm doing a long-term personal training course, just so not because I want to be a personal trainer, but just to tick the box to get the insurance. So I wonder, like, with the three of you working and you being obviously the career that is very like on it and very logistical, how is it working with the three? And do you find yourself slowing it down a bit at times because you want everything to be done properly?
Yes. Oh, definitely. The two girls would definitely agree with you there. I suppose, yeah, it is important. I guess as an independent festival, you have to make sure that you have the right requirements around insurance and stuff, because financially it's you that's at risk. It's not just like you're, a big festival company. So that's the scary part, is, you have to kind of do things by the book, because if something went wrong, then, that's your house and your kid, you know what I mean? Like that's what's important with that. But definitely, yeah, I like to do things by the book as a lawyer. And like none of us have experience with events or marketing or press or any of this. So it is just all learning. It's such a steep learning curve. But what we found is, and I think the girls are grateful to for this part anyway, is that like we've put systems in place, and we all now are on board with putting systems in place for getting things done. So obviously, as you know, like it is harder to put systems in place initially, because it takes time to like create the document where everything's going to be recorded, and to make sure that you have a system doing that. But now we have the systems, like we've been doing it really well for all of these years. We've been really careful around how, budget and everything, like, we're not making money out of this ourselves, like paying ourselves out of money or anything. We're just being really careful about the budget. We're putting it back into the festival. We're just being conservative about how we do things. And we have these systems in place. And so then every year it gets easier to do those jobs. And in fact, when you can invite like an admin assistant to come in. We have a beautiful admin assistant, Kim, that comes in and helps us, and she can just kind of take something and run with it. Then she's like, everything's there, templates for replies are there. This is how you deal with this. This is the exact phrase that people need on the insurance document. Can you please check all of those? This date needs to be there. It needs to be in by this date because we have this plan for 3 weeks later, whatever. So there's reasons for it, and there's systems, and then it makes our job easier. It's harder at the start, but then once you have the system in place, it makes it so much easier to hand that over. And then, like, of course, then we kind of make the festival. Like this year we have the Kia are going to power a kitchen, so there's got a cook with Kia stage. They're also going to power like the nighttime event. So we have a nighttime like a Kiosa Quill, which means music in the woods. So there's a DJ after the curtain in the woods. So just a bit of fun, but like we're able to add those things. Like the kitchen like is a lot of work to add, because we've never had a big demo, like a full kitchen being built on site. We've never had a demo kitchen before, and so there's just all those things to think through. And again, we don't have the experience to think to know what's required. We have to kind of research it and look at it, and then make sure we're doing it properly. But there's a lot of work in that. So now if Kim is able to check all the insurance documents for me, she has a system to do that, so that then me and Mary and Katie can get on with organizing kind of new and more exciting kind of things, parts of the festival.
And are there any things you would tell yourself like 3 years ago? Now you're 5 years in, when you started to grow it, which I guess is 3-4 years ago. Is there anything you wish you knew? Like quick bits of advice? You'd like, just do that, don't do that, don't get involved with those people.
Oh.
Or maybe not mention people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you know what? We're so lucky. Most of the people that we work with, all of the people that we work with and continue to work with, are amazing. And I suppose we're very lucky. And like, I guess if I knew how hard it was, I don't know, like it's very hard, and we're very supported. Like our partners, our mothers are like, everyone's on board and really supportive. We all have, we're mothers, we have kids, we need support and help, and they are really supportive. And I think, I guess maybe I just would have, if I was looking back, I would have kind of just told myself that it is a hard journey, and it doesn't, it is hard, but that to be so grateful for the support, and maybe just, yeah, to start kind of doling out things sooner, like getting an admin assistant to help with us. And obviously though things like that can only happen though when you have enough money to pay for that, and it's kind of a chicken and egg situation. But we're
And
very lucky.
that's self-employment full stop, isn't it? Chicken and egg. Like I first considered getting an assistant about 10 years ago and still haven't.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting till this and still haven't. And, arguably could I have grown more perhaps if
Yeah.
I'd have taken that step? Who knows? Now, I guess the final layer of questioning, I guess, how do you pick partners and teachers? And can you talk a little bit about the lineup this year? Anything you knew you were
Yes.
excited about?
So, well, partners are really important to us. Like we have great relationships with our partners, and they come back to our festival year after year. What's important in terms of picking them, in terms of connecting with them, is the yogic principles. Again, coming back to that, like sustainability is a big part of our festival. And so, with Kia, we work with them in the way of them. It's an off-grid way to power all of our tents. It does away with the need for diesel generators. There's other partners, like Solaris Teas and Be Kind, and there's Kilbeg and Oats, even my husband's company, that have supported us since the beginning, and they're very, like, I suppose they're carefully picked, and our relationships are nurtured, because they are not every business is a sustainable business that we feel will align well with a yoga festival. So it is hard to do that, but we are very lucky in the partners that we have, and that align with that. And so and I think there are lots of partners that we can work with that will be like that, but there's also yeah, it's just not a carte blanche for everything because um of the sustainability. And then in terms of picking teachers, we this year we had over 1,100 applications, which was
Wow.
crazy. So we had to go through a lot, and that took a lot of time. And again, that's I suppose why we have to have deadlines for things and insurance getting in by this, because we're dealing with so many people. But we are so lucky because really in Ireland we have teachers who are teachers. They are teachers who've been practicing and teaching for 20, 30 years over that, and so we have world-class teachers in Ireland, and we have them coming to the festival. And then we expanded into when we had the budget to do it, we expanded into being able to pay someone to fly over, like yourself, Michael James Wong. And this year, so you guys are coming back again, which is just like so amazing to us to have that kind of yoga picnic family and coming back, and people love that, to be able to connect in with their teachers that they don't always get to have a practice with because they're based in the UK or whatever. And then this year we have Dylan Werner coming over and Tara Judell, both coming from the States. And so really exciting to have those. They're, again, world-class teachers. And like, this from kind of, I've been doing yoga since 2005 or something. And I've gone around and I've done classes with these people around the world. And you can kind of, between that and then online, classes that people are offering, you may have myself and Mary and Katie are all yoga teachers, so we've experienced classes with people, and so we know that these are amazing teachers, and we're just so privileged to be able to bring them back to Ireland to be here.
Do you ever have to think like what you believe that your community would resonate with in terms of teaching? Because sometimes it isn't just the biggest names work. Okay, sometimes it does. Like massive festivals that have massive capacity, like the biggest names obviously are key. Like, what do you think your audience are looking for when you're picking teachers? And of course, there is diversity. You've got younger people, older people, etc. But what's at the heart of what you're looking for?
I think it depends because there are some people, like, so for instance me, if I was the target market, I would see like the likes of yourself and Tara Judell and Dylan and Michael and Hannah Barrett as well as coming, and to see those people. I would be coming for those people, and but I'd also be coming for the likes of Etna Kennedy and Lou Horgan and Michael Ryan and people like that, who are kind of Irish teachers who are amazing kind of teachers that I just don't get to practice in person with all of the time. And for other people who don't know, like there's people who don't um for who don't do yoga maybe regularly. Like, there's a lot of people who come who are not yogis, and then there's a lot of people who come who don't do it regularly, or maybe just don't know, aren't kind of as um enmeshed in it to know all of the names and the people and stuff. And for them, I think it's just having really good quality teachers. You're introducing them more so to teachers, and so it's to making sure that all of our teachers are, really well qualified, really well experienced, and really just aligning with the values of the festival. And we're so lucky because we have, there's over 100 classes on the schedule, and they are all amazing. And it's really hard for people to pick what to go to on a
Yeah.
day because there's so much. And so in future, we're hoping to go to a 2-day festival. I think we will be able to do that. Obviously, we're going to grow it on our own terms. We have to keep our own values and our own balance, but we'll be able to grow it. But again, that will give people the opportunity to experience more. Um, but we have, aside from yoga and asana, often people think of it as asana, and obviously there's the meditation and there's breath work, but we have like sound bath, and we have ceremony, and we have ritual, and we have an outdoor spa, we have drumming in the woods, We have, stand-up paddleboard yoga. So there's loads of fun. There's loads of opportunity for like tasters of different types of classes that you might not normally experience. And, or you might have to travel a lot to get to. And so the idea is to give people this amazing experience, these tasters of classes, and have world-class teachers at it, as well as local teachers. That we have some amazing local yoga teachers here as well, and those people are on the lineup too. It's quality, and kind of resonance for us in terms of the community. We're just really privileged and lucky.
So shout out the dates, the times, when it is.
Yeah, so it's the 4th of July, so it's only 3 weeks, so we have a lot of work to do. But the 4th of July, the tickets are on theyogapicnic.com. Tier 3 tickets are running low, so definitely need to get those soon before they run out. The location is Westmeath in Ireland. I think that was all. Was there anything else that I missed?
I think that's covered it. That's good. I
Yeah.
can't wait. And I think 2 days would be amazing. Like I think with anything one day, people get exhausted. They do a hard class, and actually, I'm done. I want to go to that class, but it's just too much to fit in. So I think a 2-day one sounds like
And
a good
thankfully
plan.
this year we have a bit of a nighttime event, and one of our neighbors has opened a campsite right beside it. So, and there's some pre-pitched tents available as well, so people can actually stay the night this year for the first time. So that's exciting for us too.
I can't wait. I'll see you soon then.
Yes, I can't wait to see you. That'll be great. We'll see you on the morning of the 4th of July.